I have been writing copy professionally since 1995. So I've been at this for a long time. And I think a lot of copywriters that have been in the craft for decades, when, all of this AI buzz first started coming out, we felt a little bit threatened, or a lot threatened. It might be a better way of putting it, and kind of scared, like, are the robots coming to take over our jobs, right? Well, it was really interesting because, right now, Chat GPT is all the rage, right? That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So, of course, we go into Chat GPT and we're like, well, let's test this and let's play with some things. And I asked Chat GPT 10 different questions about using AI and copywriting, original copywriting, right? And I phrased the question very differently 10 different times because I wanted to see, well, what's it going to pop out for me? And I can tell you 5 of the answers use the exact same words. Yes. Okay. And I was sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just barely scratched the surface here. And look at this regurgitation.
This is the Play Your Position podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
Hello, Team PYP. Mary Lou Kaiser here. Welcome to today's episode of the Play Your Position podcast, where we talk about things related to leading a great life, leading a great business, being more creative, more effective, showing up more of who you already are so that you can have a great life and impact others along the way. Today is no exception. I have a wonderful guest who is coming to us from San Diego, California. Her name is Stephanie Nivinskus. Stephanie, are you ready for kickoff?
Oh, let's go. Game on.
Game on is right. So team, here's some things that I know about Stephanie. She is the CEO of SizzleForce Marketing, a fractional CMO agency that services scaling companies. Since 1995, she's been developing brand building marketing campaigns that have been used by companies including Starbucks, Quiksilver, the National Football League, and Cox Communications, along with thousands of privately owned companies. She has written for Forbes and Entrepreneur magazines and is the author of the international #1 bestseller, Absolutely Unforgettable, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Creating a Heart-Centered Brand and Standing Out in a Noisy World. She speaks nationwide when she's not helping brands showcase their sizzle. Stephanie is enjoying time with her husband and 3 teenagers, again, in beautiful San Diego, California. So Stephanie, we have so much to talk about today. I'm super excited that you're here. Right out of the gate, would you be willing to kick us off with your story about when you got the call to leadership? What was going on in your life? Was it a very specific moment when you knew, or was it more of an evolution?
I think I came out of the womb designed to be a leader. I really do.
I love that.
One of my earliest memories in life is we had a big cherry tree in our backyard. And one day, and I must have been maybe 4 years old. One day I was outside and I was looking at the cherry tree and I was like, those are so yummy. I love those cherries. And I bet other people would love those cherries too. And so I started picking the cherries off of the tree and putting them into little baggies. Now this predates like Ziplocs, right? The old school folded up under the flap, right? Little baggies. And I started bagging these cherries. And then I decided I was going to go around my neighborhood. I lived on a street called Happy Valley, which is like super cute because it really was like a happy valley. Okay. at the time, it was the 70s. Kids could walk around alone and it wasn't like it is today, right?
Right.
So I walked around my neighborhood and I would just go ding dong on four steps. And I'd be like, hey, want to buy a bag of cherries? Because I'm selling them and they're really good. And I started making all this money because I was like this little 4-year-old girl with a basket of cherries that were fresh off the tree. And people are like, yeah, I'll buy a bag of cherries. That, while it is sales focused, I think it's also leadership focused in the fact.
Sure.
I saw something that I liked, that I knew other people would like, and just decided, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to bridge that gap. There's something in me that really likes to win, right? I have this fiercely competitive spirit about me, which is funny because I'm not athletic at all. I get a 0 in the athletic department, but I am fiercely competitive with everything, like from, playing board games to things in business and everything in between, right? So I kind of bridged this gap early on in life, being like, okay, well, I want some extra money to buy a new teddy bear because my mom's not going to buy it for me. So if I sell X many cherries in bags to my neighbor, I will have X amount of money and I can go get my teddy bear.
Right.
Right. So it became a game to me, right? It became a game early on. I remember a few years later being in Girl Scouts and, Girl Scout cookie time, right?
Oh, yeah.
Selling the cookies door to door again. My poor neighbors, I drove them broke probably. But I remember, there was an opportunity to actually win a bike if you sold enough cookies. And I was like, oh, I'm winning the bike. I want the bike. I'm winning the bike. And so I went crazy selling these cookies and I won the bike. And I think,
oh, fantastic.
Like how that advanced, moving forward, even, and I'm still in these early childhood years. I remember being in the 5th grade and the school wanted to do a Tom Sawyer play. And, the 2 main characters are Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn.
Yep.
So they needed 2 boys to play those roles. Well, okay, Tom Sawyer was picked. This kid named Dana, I remember. And they needed a Huckleberry Finn, and nobody wanted to be Huckleberry Finn for whatever reason. And I was sitting there and I'm watching, I'm like, why isn't anyone going to be Huck? And I'm like, I'll be Huck. And they're like, you're a girl. I'm like, I don't care. I want to be Huck.
So
I played Huckleberry Finn and, and it was a leading role in the play. And so I got this taste really early on that if you like to win and there's something that you want, if you jump in the game and you start playing, you're much more likely to actually win. And that happens through leadership.
Absolutely. Oh, so beautifully stated and reflects the core of this show. You knew at a young age who you were, whether you were consciously aware of that or not. You were behaving in a way with your cherry selling and the cookie selling with the Girl Scouts and wanting to win the bike. And I like something that you said you were bridging the gap. Would you say that that's a skill that good leaders have, is the ability to bridge the gap between where perhaps a company or a group of people is and where they want to go?
I think that is an absolute must-have skill in leadership, right? You have to be able to see that, okay, we've got this situation over here, and then we've got this situation over here. And somehow we need to make these 2 situations work better together. We need to optimize what's happening in between these 2 different zones. And any good leader is going to be very good at not just filling the gap, but recognizing the gap, recognizing is a gap, and recognizing that there is an opportunity to fill the gap, and then strategizing on what it looks like to fill it, then executing it, And then once it's executed, optimizing it and making sure it's the right fill, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have a book with a really great title, absolutely unforgettable, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Creating a Heart-Centered Brand and Standing Out in a Noisy World. How do you help small businesses stand out in what is it's getting louder and louder every single day? You know, you are a guide of sorts between them existing as they are and whatever their goals may be. And how does what you've written in your book play into that, Stephanie?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that we do here is differentiating our clients, right? Because it is a very noisy world out there. And everybody right now, I would say not everybody, but most companies sound the same. Most companies play it very safe. They say what's accepted, they say what everybody else is out there saying. And because of that, they just blend into the noise and they become part of the noise.
Mm-hmm.
So
the white noise, the music.
right. So we make a real point early on in our relationships with our clients to identify what truly makes them different and compelling. And then to create messaging around those differentiators that isn't just more marketing fodder, but is messaging that is heart-centered, messaging that actually ignites all aspects of the brain, you know, telling them stories that matter, connecting human to human through the words that we use and the videos that are created and the websites that are built, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it really is about differentiating and then finding a way to make something that might otherwise come across as, you know, very boring or humdrum, something that people can relate to, something that lights them up. And sometimes that happens by making people laugh, right? You could take
Yes.
like an example, like you know, a Geico. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you know, they're selling insurance. It's so boring. I mean, probably one of the most boring industries in the world. But they've made it silly and playful. Same thing with the guy, the Allstate guy, the man
I
dude.
love him.
Yeah, I mean, he's hilarious, and he shows you these extreme examples of, you know, everything gone wrong, and they get you to laugh, but then they get you to become a fan of the brand. Did you ever think, Mary Lou, that you would actually say, "Oh, I love the guy that represents the insurance company"? Right?
Right. Well, I loved him on Law and Order SVU before he became the guy, but it wouldn't matter. I mean, the Geico example is they for years they've been having incredibly effective, funny, outrageous ads.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, to your point, it's not like I sit around and go, "Oh, I'm going to go choose Geico because of their ads." I'm going to ask you to explain to my audience, Team PYP, how consistently showing up with this very deliberate approach that you do gets people to become fans.
Yeah.
How does that work without giving away your secret sauce?
Right. That's a great question. Consistency is key, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they say, and this number is constantly shifting. I remember when I started my career in 1995 in marketing, I was working for a newspaper back in the dinosaur age when people used to read it, right?
Yeah.
And I was in the advertising department actually. And I remember early on being told, you have to sell people into contracts that will get their ads seen at least 12 times because that is how we get them results.
Mm.
So we had packages around having your ad run 12 times. Well, over the years, it's been like we're almost going on 3 decades now, right? That number keeps going up and up and up because then the marketplace gets louder and louder and more crowded, right?
Yes.
So now you really need somebody to see your message sometimes 20 or 30 times before they're going to take action. And so when looking at what you're doing with your marketing, consistency is everything, right? Like picking, for example, if you're doing social media, picking specific platforms that you can really be all in on, right? You don't necessarily need to be on every single platform, but pick the platforms that you can be all in on and that you can really play ball on, right? Not just show up occasionally, drop a post here, then disappear for 4 months, then drop another post.
Right.
And expect any results, right? This is like, where can you show up on a daily or at least every other day basis and post things that make people really think, things that are intriguing, things that stand out? And where can you also engage with other people? So where do you like hanging out? Where do you want to hang out? Right? What's fun for you? Because, for example, I don't like Twitter. I never have. I don't like it, right?
Me either. Yay.
Okay, so, it's a great, extremely effective platform for a lot of companies.
It is.
It's not my bag. So I don't play on Twitter. Even, now, of course, with Elon owning it, there's a whole story around that. But even before all of that happened, it's just, I didn't like it. So I didn't hang out there. And I put my energies on the platforms where I really enjoy hanging out, where I feel like my people hang out, and where it's fun to show up consistently.
Right.
Because you're having conversations that matter to you and move your company forward.
Yes.
That's just an example on social. It goes way beyond just social, but that's one example for you.
Well, it's a great example. And because of the proliferation of platforms, the confusion and overwhelm has matched that exponential growth to the point where many people who could get results aren't getting anything because they're doing nothing.
Right.
Right? Because they're not sitting down to think about those questions you just asked. Where do I have fun? Where are my people? Right? What vibe do I like? And so the biggies that have stood the test of time are Twitter, certainly, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and then some peripheral. TikTok is on the rise. Well, I was just talking with a good friend of mine. We were both laughing. I'm like, neither of us have ever been on TikTok. I'm not interested in TikTok, and that's okay. It's working for a lot of people. Wonderful. But, as a small business person myself, I had to make some decisions. And I think for a while, a lot of us do try to play everywhere. And you can only play, on one field at a time. And if you're trying to hop around, it's like one day you're playing, 1 minute you're playing football, the next minute you're over in the baseball diamond, and then you're jumping over to soccer, and it gets confusing and tiring. And then you're like, forget it, And I'm sure you've sat down with small business owners, Stephanie, who've looked at you and are worn out, are weary, are maybe even angry and confused and frustrated because we see these things happening and I think it's natural to want to be engaged with people who might become our fans. And then ultimately some of those will become our clients or our customers. So is part of what you do with business owners helping them to decide what platforms should they invest their time and energy into, and then you help them decide what kind of content that's differentiated to them, et cetera, and so forth. Is that kind of part of your process?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it all starts, I'm a big believer in always doing your strategy before you do any tactical implementation. So, and a lot of small business owners get that backwards. They start their business or they, acquire a business, whatever it looks like. And they're like, oh my gosh, well, I'm here. I am going to hang my shingle and all the people will come. Right.
Right.
And so in modern day, hanging the shingle is get on all the social media platforms and throw up a DIY website and boom, I'm in business, right? Well, it doesn't work that way in most cases, right? It's not effective, and you end up wasting a tremendous amount of time and confusing the marketplace before you even get out the gates. So one of the first things that we like to do with our clients is developing their avatar, right? And there's 100,000 free exercises you can find online on how to create your ideal client. The problem with them is most of them are very surface level. And most of them will say things like, well, you need to know their age bracket, you need to know their gender, you need to know what, if it's B2B, like what industries they're in. If it's B2C, it could be their age or their household income or things like that, right? And it's all demographic. Very few of these free tools get into the psychographics.
I like that word.
Yeah, which actually, that is what prompts action. The psychographics, obviously you do have to be in front of the people that have the means to purchase what you're selling, right? But you have to appeal to them on an emotional level. And the only way to appeal to them on an emotional level is to understand what they care about, what they fear, what they really want, what experiences they may have had in the past that have made them suspicious.
Sure.
Skeptical, things like that. So before you jump on any social media platform, you've got to really, really know, well, who do you want to talk to and what makes them tick? And then we can determine, well, that kind of person, well, they hang out on TikTok. And so we're going to direct your efforts toward TikTok and YouTube, maybe, right? Now, you might have a completely different avatar, and maybe that answer is Facebook and Instagram, right? Or LinkedIn and Twitter, et cetera, right? You can slice and dice it 100 different ways. But when you know what makes your people tick, then choosing the proper platform is a whole lot easier because we know where these people hang, right? Then, so yes, to answer your question, do we help them decide on the platforms? Yes. And that's how we do it. Right? Then in terms of determining what kind of content we're going to put out for them, again, it goes back to, well, what do they care about? What are their fears? What are their motivations? What are they skeptical about? What do they want to know more about? What do they not really care about, but maybe they need to know? Right?
Oh, I love that. Yes.
So we are developing content all around the avatar. That's where it all lives, as well as going back to that original exercise I talked about a little bit ago in differentiating them and showing, well, how is this solution that we're selling, whether it's a product or a service, how is it different from everything else out there that might look really similar if somebody doesn't explain how it's different?
It's halftime here at the Play Your Position podcast, and we've got ourselves a great game. While you're up grabbing another snack and topping off your favorite beverage, make sure to subscribe to the show so you never miss another play. PYP is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts can be found. Now, let's get back to the game.
And that's not easy. And we are living in a time where artificial intelligence and machine learning are accelerating. And for listeners who may not have caught the recent wave at the end of last year of 2022, there was a big, like a couple of weeks time when a artificial intelligence program called ChatGPT released out into the ecosystem a program where a person can go in and basically type in. The example that I saw that was just so intriguing was I want you to please write me I think it was like a blog post or directions on how to make a peanut butter sandwich using an old VHS machine. It was something really wacky like that. And it was so fascinating. And then there were a couple there, they were using, a biblical tone with, again, a completely different. So, and then there was Lensa.ai, which I actually wrote a blog post about taking, you take selfies of yourself and you upload it into this app, and it's a paid thing, and it kicks out these avatars that have a certain look to them, an artistic look. And what these artificial intelligence apps and programs are generating is a lot of conversation. You and I were talking about this in the pre-chat. It's a very hot topic right now. When it comes to marketing, Stephanie, and working with companies to differentiate themselves in a world where it's so easy to go grab an app and just dictate to it, this is what I want, and it pops back out a regurgitated, albeit fresh, air quote, fresh or new take on something. When are we going to reach a saturation point where everything just sounds the same? Because you said this earlier, so much of what's out there looks, feels, and sounds the same. And it's boring. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't capture our hearts. And it doesn't make us want to do anything other than run the other way as fast as we can.
Yes. I think that's already happening, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I can tell you that we ran a test just a couple of days ago using Chat GPT, right?
Okay.
So I have been writing copy professionally since 1995. So I've been at this for a long time.
Yes.
And I think a lot of copywriters that have been in the craft for decades, when, all of this AI buzz first started coming out, we felt a little bit threatened, or a lot threatened, it might be a better way of putting it,
mm-hmm.
and kind of scared, like, are the robots coming to take over our jobs, right? Well, it was really interesting because, right now, Chat GPT is all the rage, right? That's what I'm talking about. Okay. So, of course, we go into Chat GPT and we're like, well, let's test this and let's play with some things. And I asked Chat GPT 10 different questions about using AI and copywriting, original copywriting, right? And I phrased the question very differently 10 different times because I wanted to see, well, what's it going to pop out for me? And I can tell you 5 of the answers use the exact same words.
Really?
Yes. Okay. And I was sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've just barely scratched the surface here. And look at this regurgitation, right? And this was something literally, we had a team meeting 2 days ago. And I was like, hey, you guys, this is all my copywriters are on the call. And I said, hey guys, look at this. Check this out. Look at this question, this question, this question. Look at the answers. And they're like, we all gasped, right?
Yes.
Oh, the regurgitation thing is already happening. The thing that scares me is that the average small business owner doesn't know it.
Right.
The average small business owner reads something that Chat GPT or Jasper or, name the AI of your choice puts out. And they're like, oh, that sounds pretty good. Okay. And they grab it, they run with it, they publish it, having no idea that it's entirely possible that same sentence was spit out to 100,000, 10,000, 100,000, a million other people.
Yes.
Right? Or maybe it's not exactly the same sentence, but it's the exact same sentence in a few different words, right?
Yeah.
So again, you just start to blend in so quickly. The way I see AI, because, it's here, I'm sure it's here to stay. I'm sure it's going to get better with time. I think what's really important for small business owners to know at this point is that ChatGPT is going to be best used right now as your marketing assistant. Okay. If you want some prompts to help you craft some ideas, get your brain turning on how to write something, what could you say about this? Just kind of get the ideas flowing. It's a great brainstorming tool.
Yes.
Would I take anything ChatGPT writes and copy it verbatim and put it anywhere on the internet? Absolutely not.
Nope.
Right. So, sometimes people are like, oh, well, I don't need a copywriter anymore because I've got AI. Well, you're going
Good
down
luck.
a slippery slope, and be prepared to blend in with all the noise if that's the road you take. You can do it. And yeah, it'll be cheaper. It will be faster. And you might think it sounds great until it sounds like what everybody else is putting out there. So again, going back to, well, how do we use it effectively? Use it to generate some ideas. Do not use it as a fact finder. Do not do that, because a lot of what it spits out at you are actually incorrect. And I also really encourage anybody that's going to use it, run the work through a plagiarism checker, and not the one that comes with the AI. Because it's going to be supplanted. And I can tell you that, some AI tools will be like, well, we have a built-in plagiarism checker. I'm like, and you programmed it, right? So make sure you run it through a third-party plagiarism checker. When I was doing a test a few days ago, I actually asked ChatGPT to write me a story about a 5-year-old boy who lost his red ball. Okay?
Oh,
and
yes.
I was just curious. I'm like, what's it going to put out here? Right. So it made up this story. Well, I took that story, I copied it verbatim, and I ran it through a plagiarism checker. And 5 different sentences in the story were lifted from other places on the internet.
Right. Because that's how the AI works.
But they say it doesn't. And this is what kills me. They say it's not plagiarism, right?
Right.
But I don't know.
I think that's a very
5 sentences and have it not be plagiarism, right?
That's a blurry line that they're. Yeah.
It is. And you've got to, we need to respect the artists who originally crafted this content. But, we also just, I actually asked ChatGPT. That was one of my questions when I said, how is AI not plagiarism? Explain how AI is not plagiarism. And it said something along the lines of, well, plagiarism is defined as somebody, and I'm paraphrasing, but something along the lines of plagiarism is defined as somebody who is intentionally copying content and not citing the source. We don't do that because we're not a person, we're a program.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my gosh.
So no accountability whatsoever. That sounds about right for big tech.
Yeah, really, right?
I'm not bashing technology. I just know that there is a law that I think it's like law 26.2. I don't know the exact thing that basically gives tech companies a free pass. It was talked about in that movie, The Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
Where there's no accountability for what happens. And I think there'll be enough of a groundswell. Eventually, enough people are going to say enough. And, your description of what you just went through using Chat GPT, Stephanie, is the most powerful one I've heard. Not that I've listened to a lot of different conversations about this, but it is it's a leadership problem. I don't care what kind of business you're running. Somewhere within that business, you are going to have to address the question of how are we going to generate content that is going to help us advance our agenda, whatever that agenda is, whatever your product or service offerings are. content marketing is going to be a part of it. And I love that you brought up that concern that copywriters legitimately had when these programs first started coming out, thinking, oh my gosh, are the robots coming for our jobs? That's a natural response. And no, they're not. It's a tool. I love that you emphasized great tool for brainstorming. I live outside of New York City on Long Island, and I just saw a week ago a news story that New York City public schools have banned Chat GPT from their system because, kids, they're not dumb. They're like,
Right.
hey, something can write me my essay. My take on that whole thing is it's not the tool that's the problem. It's the educational system that has not adjusted to the way the world works today.
Yeah.
I'm not I used to be an English teacher. I taught public school for many years, high school. I believe in writing as a means of becoming a critical thinker. And I still believe in that, even with emojis and, social media and everything. I still think humans need to be able to put a pen or a pencil in their hand and sit down with a blank sheet of paper and take what's in their head and put it into words if anything, to clarify what the heck are you thinking about and come up with some insights. But when I saw that story, I thought, oh, okay, here we go. Here comes the war.
It's going to be really interesting. I'd like to see how they're going to enforce that. Okay, wait. If they give away Chromebooks to all the students, everyone has their own computer at home. They don't need to use the school Chromebook. And okay, they'll say, well, we don't use Chat GPT, but I can use Jasper.
Right.
They didn't say anything about Jasper, right?
Correct.
So, I have 3 teenagers. I know how the teenage brain works, right? So, yeah, I do anticipate that there's going to be some pretty serious legal action in the coming years.
Yep.
Over these things. And, a large anti-AI movement has already started, right? And, the rumblings are out there. It's going to get heated.
It is.
I'm not bashing AI at all. I think it has a great role.
Me too.
I think people just need to be educated about how to use it in a way that will help them grow their business, but not put them in great legal risk.
Yes. And again, that's what's interesting about the work you do. You've been in marketing, as you said, for 3 decades now and have seen a lot of changes over that time, including the internet. I mean,
right.
Seriously, 95, it was just the baby, just out in the world. And yet at the end of the day, what would you say, Stephanie, are the 3, I would guess, universal themes about marketing that are fundamental, that don't change no matter what tools and tech come and go? What is it that listeners who have a business of their own or work for a business, if you were speaking in front of an audience and you had to sum it up, what are those 3 universal themes that just don't go out of style when it comes to marketing?
Great question. The one that first comes to my mind is the fact that people buy based on their emotions.
Yeah.
So in your marketing, you have to appeal to their emotions. And there's a lot of people out there that are, pride themselves on what logical thinkers they are. I don't buy based on emotions. I buy based on, okay. That's what I have to say to the people who say that, because I'm like, all right, well, let me talk to you for 5 minutes about this pencil. And I'm going to position it to you in 2 different ways. I'm going to position it to you in the logical way. And I'm going to say something like, well, this pencil is made of this material, and it is going to allow you to document an idea, and it's going to fit into your hand, and it's portable, and you can carry it with you and write something anywhere. Or I'm going to say, your grandfather and his experience in World War II, how he shared the experience in the battlefield with you and what he learned as a result. Well, this pencil, this is your key to unlocking the history that you don't want to be forgotten about in your family, right? This is the key. You're going to use this pencil as a way to bridge the gap between what happened in your grandfather's life and what happens in the world moving forward. This pencil is going to be the tool that makes sure that grandpa's story is not forgotten, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, what do you want? Right? Honestly, I think that when people, it's the emotional thing. That's what makes people buy, right? So do you want to buy a pencil because it's portable and you can carry it in your backpack? Or do you want to buy a pencil because it's going to make sure grandpa's story isn't forgotten? Right?
It's beautiful.
So number one, that universal theme is people buy based on emotions. You have to appeal to them in your marketing. I think another thing that's absolutely true is people buy because they have a pain, right? They have a pain that they want to solve. Now, it may be a literal pain, it may be a figurative pain, and some pains are more serious than others, right? Some pains, it could be I have fibromyalgia, whatever it is. I don't even know how to say that word, right?
Yeah.
But I have this physical pain that I need fixed. For other people, it could be the pain of my nail polish keeps chipping. And it's annoying and it's painful for me because then I go to meetings and I work in an industry where I have to present things with my hands and people see my chipped nails and I look like I'm not together. Okay. So It could be something that's like serious, really debilitating, or something that's not really debilitating, but it's still really annoying and it's a pain, right? So people buy because they have a pain they want to solve. So when we are marketing our products and services, we need to acknowledge the fact that they have this pain and we need to agitate it a little bit in order to really rile them up and prep them for the sale, okay? Or to take the action we want them to take, right? So for example, if let's say we were doing the thing and we were selling a fingernail polish, we'd say something like, remember the last time you showed up to a meeting and you had to do your presentation of the new product and you saw that one chipped nail and you were trying to focus on your sales pitch, but all you could do was look at that one nail. It was like it was screaming out at you, blah, blah, blah. The person who actually cares about that, who's really motivated by that, is going to be nodding her head and saying, oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes. Okay. And you say, well, guess what? It doesn't have to be this way. We sell a polish that doesn't chip or whatever it is. Okay. So knowing universal truth, number two, knowing that everybody has a pain, your product or service can solve that pain. And your job in your marketing is to agitate the pain and then to solve the pain and share how your product or service solves it. Let's see. The third universal truth that doesn't change is stories stick. Okay? There's a reason why the longest form of communication started with cave walls. Okay. Right. You look back at cave walls and the hieroglyphics or whatever they are, right? They told stories, and stories light up more areas in the brain than any other form of communication.
Yes.
So you can sit there and talk about features and benefits and all of that. And there's a place for that, right? But when you can tell stories, that is what will eliminate so many different areas of the brain, just neurologically speaking, that people will buy in, get engaged, and they won't forget it. They will not forget your messaging. So tell more stories. That's the message to your listeners.
I love it. And you've done such a good job of telling some stories today, painting pictures. I keep thinking of you as a little girl picking cherries and going door to door. Stuck with me. And
see what I did there?
Yeah. But again, it's you walk your talk, Stephanie, which I respect tremendously, especially in the marketing space where it is crowded. A lot of people, are marketers. And one of the many joys I get on the show is getting to talk to people like you who really are leading the field. You have been around long enough to know what works and what doesn't, and can talk straight to people. There's no, hiding behind smoke and mirrors about the latest and greatest tool, which a lot of people do. And what was it? Barnum of Barnum and Bailey, who said, there's a sucker born every minute. And the internet age has certainly shown that to be true. People get sucked into whether they see the talk about cryptocurrency or, artificial intelligence and think, oh, this is going to be my silver bullet to the promised land. And it almost is always a silver bullet to disaster.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm grateful that there are people like you who are straight shooters, who get results for your clients, who are intelligent and your business. You understand the landscape and can guide people effectively. And so for listeners who would like to get to know more about you, your services, I know you hang out on social media, and you also have something you'd like to share with listeners today. What would that be?
Yeah, I would love to send your listeners a free copy of my book.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah. So where can they get that?
So you can go to sizzleforce.com/free book.
Awesome. And team, the link to that will be on Stephanie's show notes page at pyppodcast.com. And of course, you can just go right there if you're hearing it and put your name in and get a copy of her book, which is got a great cover, by the way, with an elephant on it. It stands out. I'm such a book snob. So when I see a great cover, I'm like, yes, did it right. It's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And then if people wanted to connect with you on social, or is your website sizzleforce.com?
Yes, website is sizzleforce.com. I like to tell people you'll remember it, because sizzle like bacon and force like may the force be with you.
Yes.
You can follow me on LinkedIn. My last name is a little bit scary, but it'll be spelled on the show notes, right, Mary Lou?
Yes, it will. And there'll be a link to LinkedIn for you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so LinkedIn, I'm very active there. Also, you can find us on Facebook, and you can find us on Instagram. And we've got a little bit going on YouTube as well.
Nice. Very nice. Good. So again, team, check out Stephanie's show notes page at pyppodcast.com to connect with her, to learn more about what she does for small businesses. As you heard today, she knows her stuff. She's a great storyteller, and she can help you differentiate if that's something that has eluded you to this point. We're recording this at the beginning of a brand new year. And for a lot of people, this is the year they're going to step out and do things differently. Coming out of 2 years, or for some 3 years of a pandemic, we're hungry for some action, and we're hungry for some results. And I believe 100% you find the people who can help you do the work you don't know how to do. And most of us are not marketers. So look Stephanie up and let her know that you heard her conversation here at PYP. And before we say goodbye, Stephanie, what are a couple of books that have been instrumental on developing you into the amazing person that you are today?
Well, that's a very nice way of asking that question. I will tell you, number one book for me is the Bible.
Okay,
so
good.
I'm going to put that at the top of the list. other books which pale in comparison, but I still think are so, so good. There is a book that I don't think gets celebrated nearly enough that really should be, and it's called Contagious. Why Things Catch On. And it's by Jonah Berger. And it is an amazing, amazing book that I think anybody who has a product or service they want to move should absolutely read this one. Another book that I absolutely love is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. We are a story brand certified company. So we actually work with a lot of clients that want to story brand their marketing. And it's an outstanding book that lays out the foundation of how to build a story brand. It can be a little difficult to apply on yourself, which is why people like me exist. But it's something that I think is great for every business owner to understand the concept for, and then to contact me to actually get it done. So, another thing, Mary Lou, if somebody is like, I don't want to read your book, I don't have time, blah, 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 whatever. Like, I just want to talk to you. Can we talk? If you don't mind, I would love for people to know that I would love to talk to you. You can book a call with me just by going to sizzleforce.com/schedule.
Nice. That's great. So I'll put a link to that too, because sometimes that's what people want. They're like, just get me to the person.
Yep.
Just get me there.
Yeah.
And speaking of how things have evolved, I remember, and you probably do too, the days where there seemed to be so many steps to get finally where you want to go. And that always bugged me. I was like, can't we just like ask for what we want? Why do we have to take people through this long drawn out thing? I really don't care. I just want to get to the person or the thing. It's nice. It's nice when people make themselves available, because there still are a lot of people that want to hide behind layers of whatever, But boy, if you're in business and you want to help people, why not make it easy for people to get in touch with you? So perfect.
And I think I do that because it's the way I think too. Okay, great. You have a book. Awesome. I'm never going to read it. So how do I actually talk to you?
Right. And that's, and again, it's an evolution of how we're all doing this. The models that were presented to us for, in the early days were you create this big, long, drawn out funnel, and people have funnel. What have I heard? Funnel fatigue.
Yes.
I don't want to get lost in the funnel. Just get me what I want. Make it easy. One button. I want to buy your book. I don't want to see 20 upsells for a billion things. I don't want those. I want the whatever.
Yeah.
So, oh, it's very interesting. This has been great, Stephanie. You really are an energy force, and I appreciate that, because there is a lot of noise and there's a lot of confusion, and you're clearly somebody who can help people who want to rise above that and make a little mark for themselves. Maybe not, take over the world, but just, hey, let's get ourselves out there in a bigger way, and you can help them do that. And for that, I'm very, very grateful.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure talking with you today.
Hey team, Mary Lou here. Who's number one in football changes from year to year. Fashion trends come and go, same with musical tastes. But leadership skills, they never go out of style. In fact, these days, leadership is an essential survival skill for a world that demands more from us than ever before. To succeed these days, you need to know how to show up for yourself so that you can then do the work you love with people you like the way you want. The Play Your Position Leadership Playbook helps you do this, and it's free. Go to pyppodcast.com to download your copy today. If being more successful this year, next year, in the 21st century is on your to-do list, get your copy of the Play Your Position Leadership Playbook now. pyppodcast.com. It's at the top of the page. You can't miss it. That's pyppodcast.com, and start being more of the leader you are meant to be today. This podcast was produced by Daniel Romeros. Show notes for this episode can be found over at pyppodcast.com. I'm Mary Lou Kaiser. Thanks for listening.
Here at the Play Your Position podcast, we believe that the road to self-mastery and a life well lived starts with answering the call to leadership. That's when the fun really begins. Send this episode to any friends who might need to hear the inspiration and ideas you heard today. And feel free to rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform.